on the role of the physical library in the era of internet. We're really grateful that you could come for it. So this is meant as like a place to think about what is the future role of the physical library when almost all information is available on our computers. And it's also an occasion to express our gratitude to our chief librarian for over 20 years, Dr. Paul Pandian. This is his last working day, and we would be having a session at the very end of this meeting to felicitate him. So without further ado, let me hand over this mic to my co-organizer, Professor Amritanshu Prasad. Amritanshu is a mathematician in our institute. He joined about the same year as me, 2002. And Dr. Paul Pandian, actually. So we kind of joined in the same year. And so Amri will be speaking on a bit about our institute, basically to introduce the institute to those who may have come to our institute for the first time.
Okay, good morning, friends and colleagues. We are meeting here today to discuss the role of the physical library in the era of the internet. And we are also here to commemorate the exceptional service of our librarian, Dr. Paul Pandian, to this institute over the past 20 years. So I would firstly like to begin by welcoming all of you to this institute on behalf of my co-organizers, Mr. Maruthu Pandian and Professor Shitabro Sinha. Some of you, I know, have had a long association with this institute and its library. But for those of you who are visiting us for the first time, I'll just say a few words about this institute. After that, my colleague, Mr. Maruthu Pandian, will speak specifically about the library, and Professor Shitabro Sinha will talk about the ideas that lie behind the organization of this conference. So the Institute of Mathematical Sciences, Chennai, was founded in 1962 by the physicist Professor Alladi Ramakrishnan. It was inspired by the Institute of Advanced Studies in Princeton as a place where scholars were given all the freedom to pursue knowledge for its own sake. The institute has a motto which it tries to live by: the pursuit of science is at its best when it is part of a way of life. In the last 60 years, there have been many changes in the world, also in India, and also in the way we practice scientific research. While constantly responding to these changes and staying relevant to the evolving world, this institute has tried to remain faithful to its founders' ideals. Today, the institute has about 50 faculty members. It has a very successful PhD program, which it runs as a constituent institute of Homi Bhabha National Institute, Mumbai. And we train the next generation of Indian scientists and educators. This institute also has a postdoctoral program and a visitor program, where visitors from all over India and indeed all over the world come and collaborate with us. The main research groups of this institute are in computational biology, theoretical computer science, mathematics, and the largest, theoretical physics. The members of this institute are committed to helping in all aspects of science education in the city, in the state of Tamil Nadu, and across all of India. We have many programs related to this, including numerous outreach programs which are run for students and teachers of schools, colleges, and universities. There are two that I would specifically like to mention. One is Science at the Sabha, science lectures for the general public, usually held at Music Academy. Another one is Ganitha Karnagam, an outreach program for school children held in Tamil, which is focusing on schools run by the State Education Department. The library of this institute is our pride and joy. As a young faculty member of IMSC, I spent several hours in the library every week, browsing the bookshelves, reading and learning. And the collection is really, lovely, comprehensive, and going back to many like classic books which are really collectibles. And now I rely heavily on the online periodicals and book collections of the library. This library is also in some sense the memory of this institute, with archival records of this institute dating back to 1962. This library is also a regional library of the National Board of Higher Mathematics, and by this mandate, it is open to students and faculty from all universities, schools, and colleges. I leave it to my colleague, Mr. Maruthu Pandian, to tell you more about this library. Thank you.
Good morning. Warm welcome to the Institute of Mathematical Sciences. I'll be introducing the library of the Institute. The library is centrally located at the Institute, and we have all well-rounded collection of around 77,000 books and bound volumes. And the Institute subscribes to a lot of electronic resources, more than 250 journals, and we do have a very good collection of archival content, and more than 1,000 journals we have from volume 1 and issue 1. And the library, apart from serving our regular members, the library serves visitors all over India, and anybody can enter into the library during working hours, and they can use our services. The library is open 24/7, and any bona fide member can enter the library at any time, and they can use our services. The library is equipped with RFID, and the checkout, check-ins, and circulations, and stock verification, everything is done through automated way. The library colleagues are friendly, and they help our users as much as possible. With this introduction, let's start this program.
So before we start with the talks, I just wanted to say a few words about the reason why we thought about this meeting. I mean, of course, we wanted to honor Dr. Pandian, but in parallel, several of us, who have been in the library committee for a longish time. So I forgot to mention that Amri has been the chair of the library committee for a very long time before, I kind of came over this year. So he has actually thought deeply about, what is the relevance of the library and so on. So occasionally I would, have all these discussions about, how to make the library relevant. I remember now at this point an anecdote by one of my colleagues. So he was asking one of his students to look at a paper which was published sometime in the 1970s. So later at the end of the day, he asked his student, so did you find it? And the student said, it's not available. And he said, what do you mean it's not available? So he said, I searched Google. And he said, there is this place called the library on campus. There is this set of shelves on the ground floor. There are things called bound volumes. And you go and look for the journal name and you find the appropriate volume. And then you actually do a photocopy. And the student was like, oh, if it's not on the net, it doesn't exist. And so we realized that there is a place for the physical library which is, in some sense, completely disappearing from the minds of the next generation. And, how to actually keep it still relevant is something that we need to think about. And so we thought that this would provide a wonderful opportunity to basically think about, how to make the brick and mortar library still relevant in this era when everything is available on the net, or it appears everything is available on the net, because if it's not there, it's almost as if it doesn't exist. And apart from this, I think we can also think a bit about how this Indian science community can come together to forge, something like an open science initiative where the knowledge that is generated by, from using Indian tax-based money can actually be accessible to the average citizen without, having to go through high paywalls, and how the library can help in this, enabling this access. So let me not hold this further, but just wanted to say a few words about Dr. Pandian. I mean, of course, we'll have a full session dedicated to felicitating him, but those who haven't, or those who haven't been introduced to him before, Dr. Pandian did his PhD in Library and Information Science from Karnataka University in 2005. Earlier, he did his post-graduation from DRTC, ISI Bangalore Center, and then he started off with Informatics India, whose founder director is actually with us today. Very thankful to you, sir. And he spent a little time with Lupin Labs and Sun Pharma before moving to InflipNet, which is whose current director is also with us, thankfully. I mean, we are very grateful to her that she could make time to come. And then he joined the Indian Institute of Management Indore as its first head librarian, before finally joining IMSC in 2002. So without further ado, let me start the academic session. So the first academic session would be chaired by Sri Maruthu Pandian, and the talks are kind of 40 minutes and with 5 minutes for questions. I think Sri Maruthu Pandian would give some indication about when 40 minutes are about up. So Sri Maruthu Pandian.
Let me introduce the first speaker of this meet. Yeah, the first speaker of this meet is Mr. Sathyanarayana. It's my privilege to introduce him to you all. He is the founder director of Informatics India Limited, a leading information products and services company established in the year 1980. Currently, he is the chairman and managing director of Informatics. Satya started his career as a librarian and worked in different institutions and agencies such as Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, HMT, SKF for 7 years before promoting his brainchild, Informatics. Informatics pioneered the introduction of international online databases access in the year 1984. First to introduce and market CD-ROM products in India in 1988. Satya is also associated with many professional and academic activities in the profession, and he is the recipient of Young Information Scientist Award in 1991 by the Society for Information Science India. With this brief introduction, I invite Mr. Sathyanarayana.
Good morning, friends. It's a pleasure and privilege to be here on this occasion, which opportunity for me to be. It's an occasion where which takes me back to my own years behind that I traveled this journey in this business and service of information. And I'm so happy that I'm here to be part of this function when my former colleague who worked with us, Paul Pandian, spent here 2 decades, right? About 20 plus years. He had a long journey in this his librarianship, beginning with our company as a process in our telling. So it must be a reflective moment for you too, Paul, And as the years pass, it's hard to remember things. And I'm pretty bad in remembering things. I guess you were with us for about a year or so, and not able to really remember what all we did together. But he was a very quiet, always smiling person, very sensitive and very brilliant. And I guess there was one project of coming out with a database of all the library professionals we had thought of at that time. Were you working on that in those days? May not be so. It also takes me back in some way to the memories of those days, which has a good connect with the topic of the seminar itself. And I must say this seminar is a fitting tribute to Dr. Paul Pandian, who is superannuating. And superannuating is always the beginning of a new journey with a lot of rich experience. And in India, I'm sure more people will be sought after you. And for me, this takes me back to those years where almost everything was physical then. And we started with digital as a kind of a craze at that time, for me, a personal craze. And that was online. That was online before internet. A lot of people of current generation don't know that there was an online before internet. It was used a different kind of a telecommunication in the protocols. And since it was very nascent in those days, and I was unsure about the prospects of something called online when there was hardly any communication in those days. For reasons of prudency and business sense, we had both online and the physical. The physical part was we used to sell subscription to periodicals as a service, and we engaged in online in those days using something called the lowest speed communication possible you can think of, telex, which runs at around 5 bytes per second. Now, but it worked. We didn't download any content. It was just pure interaction, online interaction. Put a question, get an answer, find out how much answer you got, and then ask for the print material to be printed and mailed out. That was the kind of things, and it evolved over a period of time. That was between 80 plus and 90. By 90, everything started changing in India too. So that's the history. So my journey started with both physical and digital. Digital was an excitement. Print was the business but later digital became the primary business. So thank you again, Professor Sinha, for giving me this opportunity. Now, I was wondering what am I going to speak on this topic. So I think in the world of everything, physical and digital coexist. And there's no second word about it. And digital will continue to enhance our needs and quality of life, which of course depends on us how much quality the human society can bring in. So let me talk a few things about totally not directly connected with the libraries first. Look at the roads and automobiles. They are the key segments of the economy. They are the pillars of the economy. The road is very physical. The automobile too, even today physical, because that is the mobility. But it's a lot more digital, far more digital. All of you know the kind of changes that are happening, right? And now a car looks like this in future. It's just your lounge for mobility, not for driving. And it's already there. Of course, you don't see them in roads still. So this is a classic case of how the digital world is enriching human life very innovatively, continues to. So is with movies. Movies started as a kind of what I would say, an electronic product, right? So it was analog, became digital. And look at movies today. And there was a time when people wrote, what you call obituary to movies, when the TVs and the internet and all that came. But convergence started happening. And a lot of theaters were shut down. But a new kind of theaters emerged. Even then, during the COVID period, everybody thought that it's the end of going to theaters. Now look at what has happened. It has come back with a kind of a vengeance, a roaring box office success. I had never heard of movies, Indian movies, counting in crores, 1,000 plus crores in just less than 4 to 6 weeks. And then after that it is free. Now, so they are back to the theater because people enjoy movies in a different, a community kind of a place. Theaters are community entertainment places. Although you go there, you don't even talk to each other. You just go with the family or whatever, friends. So, a good reason for us to really feel happy that there is no difference between the kind of things the theaters went to, uncertainty theaters went to, and the libraries also went through. And let us look at online education. After all, libraries are part of educational systems in the whole world. And any change in the educational space obviously is going to influence significantly the libraries. And education is marching faster online. If you look at it, the benefits of online was taken first by the libraries in the world, not by the academic campuses in the world. So the libraries are pioneers in using online and digital medium. Now, how is online education shaping up? And is it a threat to the university campuses? In fact, someone did say that in some way, no less a person than Bill Gates said. At one time he even said that universities will no longer exist after 50 years. I remember having heard that statement, read that statement. And he even predicted that in somewhere in 2010-11, predicted that over the next 5 years, most of the campus-based colleges will be significantly less important. Was he right? You can see another statement by a journalist and an academician as well as a lawyer and author. Bill Gates was wrong. And the campuses are still flourishing. And they are growing bigger. But you see an element of coexistence here. Online has caught up. In fact, this is one example of how the Harvard Business School, only one school of Harvard University, and their online and physical campus-based learning systems, learning models, both are almost bringing the same level of revenue, almost the same level of revenue to them, as this shows. Hardly any difference, about $5 million. Yeah. And maybe in the coming years, online may overtake. But there are very many different reasons for that. It became an opportunity for people who are not able to go to campuses to learn, and more importantly, for people to, the continuing education, which is so important, became possible because of online. So that was an advantage to the society. So it did not undermine the physical campuses, university campuses, but it enhanced their values, brought in additional income. It's so much so with many universities. I was looking at like Arizona University, the entire university, which has about 40,000+ students. In terms of revenue, their online education revenue is almost 40%. This is another interesting example of coexistence. And this is another example of how higher education enrollment, is it really an inevitable decline or online opportunity? It certainly proves to be a big opportunity. This is from a McKinsey report, as you would see here. Although you see a bit of a decline, that's largely because of a change in the market share when the new entrants come in. Like the Google, everybody thought that will result in newspapers no longer going to be available, kind of a thing. I'm sure my friend is here to talk more about it, how newspapers have successfully stayed and enhanced the value for the users. This again is a glorifying the online advantage, of course. Online is a new entrant to the physical world. It's bound to happen. And it has brought in, as I said, a great many values, enriching and the physical world. It's happening in India also, although India was late in entering the online. And in fact, India has exceeded in digital payment the rest of the world. And obviously it should happen in education also. And as you see here, with some data I have displayed here, online education revenue is going to be projected around close to $6 billion. That's almost about 50,000 crore rupees. But anyway, the education budget of the country, if you take the private sector education also, which is more than 2 times what government spends on education, that means more than 2/3 of education budget comes from the students, student funded what you call. That itself is more than 3 lakhs crores. 3 lakhs crores is old data I'm telling. So in that 48 crore, 50 crore is still in an infant stage. But in US, if you look at it, it's already $75 billion. So which means in India, there is a big space for online education to catch up. It's going to happen. So in this space, where will the library stand? Like the university campuses, if you go by the corollary, will they also expand? Or will they face any kind of a challenge of extinct? Certainly not the latter. I'm sure they are going to find new opportunities to grow. It's already happening because libraries have been, for the last 2-3 decades, completely reimagining themselves with a lot of changes happening in the library world. And when we talk about libraries, as I said, in a way, libraries are on a kind of a continuous journey, a non-stop transformational change, I would call it. And libraries are interestingly very early pioneers. As I said, online was used by libraries. More than that, we all know that in ERPs, that is what you call e-governance, the academic world calls it e-governance. And in the business world, in the enterprise, we call it enterprise resource planning, ERP. It's basically a complete workflow automation of an entire process of an institution, complete automation, end-to-end business process automation or workflow automation. Libraries had an ERP kind of a system way back in 60s as library management systems, long before the campuses really put in place an ERP. So libraries are pioneers in adopting and absorbing technology. So libraries should not have any second thought about moving faster and retaining the advantage of space, the physical space. And if you look at it, a lot of technologies were in the early stage, adapted by the libraries. Only much later in the last 10 years, libraries have fallen behind, I would say, in looking at, in absorbing emerging technologies. There was massive digitization initiatives today. Imagine the PhD thesis of all universities, professors, becoming available all over the world. It was available already in the last century itself. And thanks to InflipNet, the PhD thesis of all Indian universities are available by the initiatives of InflipNet. So it adopted online, it changed to CD-ROMs, it got ready with a faster internet penetration, and it was also a very aggressive driver of OA initiatives because open access initiative is, in a way, because of the technology changes in publishing, OA is a digital initiative. So a lot of these things you are aware, and the only thing is, like for example, research data management. A lot of libraries have been able to take the lead. Sometimes I feel that libraries are less recognized. If you look at the open access movement, open science was talked about long before open access in a limited way. But open access caught up very fast, which became a driver for open science. And librarians were the aggressive heroes of open access, and relentlessly, I would say. In fact, Richard Poindar, a journalist who has spearheaded the open access movement from the journalism side, he wrote a 2-series article. The second series he titled it as, he focused on the contribution of librarians, and he wrote the 10 years after to celebrate 10th year of open access movement. The second part he said, titled as, it was for librarians, pain without gain. It was very interesting. There was hardly any gain for librarians in the open access movement. Open access could even become a threat for librarians, but they took a very strong drive and initiative. So now these are all the examples in the journey library profession has shown, demonstrated that they have the knowledge and ability to absorb the technology faster and enliven this space and enhance the space of physical space in the library. And many innovative experiments with new technologies is happening. And there are many new things coming. In technology area, you see too many new initiatives coming every now and then. And then, of course, the world is made obsolete faster. Yesterday is made obsolete faster even before the morning of the today. That is how the technology, computational technology keeps more progressing. And some of the new emerging technologies for the librarians to watch is augmented reality, metaverse, digital twins, and generative AI and LLMs. I would not spend much time on these things since the time is not that much. I think generative AI and the LLM is something, I think it's caught up like anything. And the LLMs, these large language models become very important for libraries because the value of implementing AI in library-centric information areas will largely depend on building or customizing available LLMs for specific domains. In fact, value of AI will be much better. Their relevance and accuracy is going to be much, much better. Narrower the discipline is in implementing it. And it's a case of building and enhancing LLMs as people go. Like when you think of good old authority lists and thesauri and all that, which were built domain specific, which are now subsequently are part of knowledge graphs, which are also extensively used for automatic organization and search. So in a similar way, LLMs, customized or specific LLMs development for specific domain area could be important. And I think that's an area where librarians can play a role, I guess. Now this augmented reality is one area which is really going to help in blending the physical and digital in the digital space. As you see here, there is a blend of physical and virtual, physical and digital, let's say. In a printed book, using augmented reality, digital is embedded. And you are able to have the richness of both the print and digital. And so in augmented reality, you have this advantage. And it's completely, but when you go to metaverse, it's a very different story. All of you know that Facebook has started a new company called Meta. And in fact, they are coming out with a lot of things, but it's 100% virtual. And there's hardly any physical. But interestingly, libraries have found ways to apply metaverse virtual model also, retaining the intrinsic value of the physical space of the library. Digital twins of course, are much more, connected with both physical and digital, where you deploy simulation technique to learn more from the real world and enhance continuously the digital world. It's another work in progress. Its application is extensive in industry. In fact, recently in Bombay, that one major real estate project, that Dharvi, which is a slum which is going to be completely developed. For the whole planning, initially for the land survey and the planning, everything, they are using the digital twin model. And generative AI, you know quite a bit about it. Now, these are 4 technologies are something to watch. So now, to get closer to close my talk, so when physical with digital and virtual will continue to enhance the learning and educational experiences, and if you look at it, knowledge itself is virtual. So, and information and data are real, because knowledge is a mental construct, and information and data are real objects. And for the library, information and data objects are what is, the main asset, physical asset that library maintains. Even if it is a digital asset, library has a way of maintaining internally or externally. And at the end of the day, what is most important for the library is an ambient space, which is an essential need for study and learning. Like the classrooms are required for learning and study, library is required for study and learning. So we call it by whatever name, library has a natural choice to serve the need of community space in learning, study and research, and also act as a community memory. I think the speaker who introduced the program, he mentioned about the library as a kind of a memory of the institute. I would even say that the library is and should be the memory of the institute as a social memory. So digital medium digital is a medium for all future content creation and management activities in the coming days. So physical and digital and virtual, they will all coexist. When we talk about virtual, we largely mean the content could still be digital is also physical in a way. If the digital is not available physically in your place, it becomes online and virtual. A lot of content used to be available digital within the library. But with the cloud, everything moved out of the library and landed in the cloud. So it became virtual. But that also has its own advantage, making more space available for people to assemble for collaborative learning and whatnot. So in conclusion, I would say that technologies are used to solve real world problems. As they keep evolving, technology continuously evolves. There is no full stop there. And for the world of higher education, learning and research, technologies will continuously enhance, bringing in new and better ways to improve our abilities to learn better and do research faster. I'm sure researchers are already experiencing in every discipline how these technologies are helping. And learning spaces will continue to be shared by both physical and digital, complementing each other. As I said, the physical and virtual will continue to coexist, enhancing each other. I would even say that digital is supplementing physical. I would say that they are partners. And what will happen is, this is something nobody can predict the future. As humans, we are habitual. We get habitual and keep adapting with very evolutionary changes in the world, right? And we are no more cavemen, right? So now, even with the digital world, perhaps we will evolving in a very different way. The millennials, born digital, sometimes I wonder, they don't have any need to learn handwriting. Right? So, they just started typing. In the future, you don't even need to type also. So the skills, the basic earlier skills like writing, typing, it may disappear at some point of time. So one doesn't know. There's a saying that we all get used to what we are. I mean, people get used to what they are, in the sense we just keep evolving, leaving behind the past. And after 100 years or 200 years, everything behind us becomes a relic. So that's something unavoidable in the human evolution. Maybe at least for another 50 years, I wouldn't see in education and research, or 100 years, anything going wrong. I mean, physical will continue to exist. But after 50 and 100 years, we don't know what kind of human beings we are going to be. So with this, I thank you very much again for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful talk. Audience, is there any question?
I just have one small question, with the impact of ChatGPT, what do you think where the libraries are heading now?
Pardon?
ChatGPT is now taking over. People think that can solve all your information problem. So what's your view on that? I was expecting something from your talk.
ChatGPT and what you call generative AI is still, I would say, for a couple of years at least, it will be work in progress. And both Google and Microsoft are still experimenting. But they are really fantastic. In writing, they are fantastic. There are two things, as you see, there is a search element, there is a paraphrasing element, and machines are writing. And machines are able to write in better language than most of us. That's really amazing. But the language models are still in evolving stages, and there will be a lot of embarrassment. A simple question you ask, I keep on seeing a lot of embarrassment. Like you just ask them to give a list of discovery services. It gives a list. Then, so you tell them again, I'm looking for a central index-based discovery service. Again, it gives a list. Then you tell them, look, there are two items. They are not central index-based discovery service, they are federated search models. It will come back and say, oh, I'm sorry, you are right. Remove it. And there are a lot of real-life embarrassment situations also. I'm sure as it evolves, it gets perfected.